Part 1. Early morning gray slanted through the window blinds, slicing the room into strips of shadow and cold light. My phone buzzed beside my keyboard. One glance at the screen and the world shifted. I want a divorce. I've met someone who makes me feel alive. For a second, it was like a fist caught me right in the sternum, knocking the air out of my lungs. The name's Michael Bennett, by the way, turned 45 just a few weeks ago. I run Point as lead financial systems analyst out of United Corp's Atlanta branch. You know how offices get before 9, just the soft clatter of keyboards and the constant drone from my 3 monitors stacked in a horseshoe, all pulsing with live security feeds. I was deep in the weeds, tweaking an anomaly filter for a West Coast client, when Emily's message landed again. I've already moved our retirement savings to my personal account. Keep the house. I'm done. The mug on my desk was half full, stone cold by now. Instinct took over. I thumbed open our banking app, cycling through balances. They jumped out at me, but not the way she thought. I thumbed out a reply, sharp and short. I hope you found what you needed. No fights, no last-minute pleas. For the next 60 minutes, warning flashes started popping up on my dashboards, account after account. Every joint asset we'd ever built was setting off my customized fraud flags. The nest egg, the investments, rainy day funds. Even that side checking account Emily always claimed as hers. My algorithms never cared who was behind the screen. If there was a major withdrawal and both of us hadn't signed off, the system locked it down tight. By lunch, my phone was lighting up again, this time with system messages, account flagged for review. Transfers frozen for audit. None from Emily, all straight from the banks. Didn't crack a grin. I just cleared the notifications and dug into a different client breach. Somebody else's emergency, somebody else's future on the line. It kept my hands busy, even if my mind kept drifting back. I imagined Emily, somewhere in Dallas for a conference, tapping her screen, confusion turning to panic as every account she touched turned up empty. My anti-fraud routines ran cold and clinical, never made exceptions, never offered sympathy. Seen it play out dozens of times for strangers. Now it was my turn to watch. Emily and I had been a unit since high school in Asheville, 22 years married, first loves, best friends. Back then, I was the stats nerd, always crunching player averages for our baseball team, tallying every dollar for the senior trip fundraiser. She was fire, lighting up any room, pulling off those killer ad campaigns for Jensen and Rowe, always hopping from some gig in Austin to a big deal summit in Seattle. Her smile landed clients, my spreadsheets kept our lives straight. Looking back, the warning signs had been drifting in like slow fog across a lake. Half a year ago, she stopped asking about our long-term plans. 3 months back, she opened a sneaky new credit card. Couple weeks ago, she remarked offhand that our guest room was just collecting dust. No one even visits anymore, right? I joked back, but that question stuck to me like something sour. Thanksgiving, my sister leaned over mashed potatoes and whispered, "Emily seems checked out, man." I brushed it off. Q4 in advertising is a war zone. But deep down, she was already plotting her escape. I'd built a full-spectrum tracking app after a client bled out their entire retirement in a data breach, linked every account, logged every move. Last Tuesday night, her final one home before Dallas, we'd sat around the kitchen island, candles flickering. "How much have we actually saved, Mike?" she asked. "Around 800 grand. All in," I replied, stirring chili. She just smiled, soft and vague, just wondering. Now, I could see she was lining up her next move. I half considered calling her mom, maybe her best friend Amanda, or even my folks. But how do you even start? Emily tried to rob us blind, but my code got her first? Sounds like some daytime talk show twist, but it was my actual life. I logged off the urgent cases, but my head was just a loop, her betrayal running back on repeat. She was probably in some fancy convention center, pretending to network, but glued to her phone, watching digital doors slam shut one after another. Years of fraud busting and anti-theft code, and now my own marriage was caught in the net. Still, weirdly enough, a bit of relief crept in. I'd always insisted on dual signature for big moves, trained by disasters I'd seen at work. Never pictured myself enforcing it on my own family. But protocol is protocol. Data needs proof, not apologies. Walking to my car as dusk lit up the city, Atlanta felt 10 states away from where we started. The sky glowed orange and purple, humid air thick as soup. For a minute, I remembered us racing bikes on Oak Street, nothing ahead but clear skies. Now, all I could see was a gap opening up. Tomorrow, Emily would call, text, maybe rage. But the system was airtight. Every attempt, Every plea, she'd get nothing but silence until the audit was over. No satisfaction in it, just a numb quiet. The machine would speak for itself. Money isn't sentimental. Doesn't care about the years or wedding vows. It just follows logic. And for all her sparkle and strategy, Emily just learned the hardest lesson. Sometimes the sharpest lawyer is the one you coded yourself. Part 2. The quiet hum of my place was the only thing breaking up the silence, except for the stack of missed calls from Emily. After closing out my 3 monitors, I put together a late-night meal, pan-seared salmon with a side of roasted broccoli. I slumped into my worn leather sofa, half watching local news while my phone kept buzzing, those relentless system alerts lighting up red. The review window would drag on at least 5 business days, maybe more, before any frozen funds saw the light of day. Emily had clearly banked on moving fast, figuring she'd be gone before I noticed. She forgot one thing. After over 2 decades together, I never missed a single financial move. Friday hit, almost noon, when her call finally made it through. "Mike, my card just got denied," she said, her voice tight with the same anxiety she got before big meetings went south. "Check your balance," I said, keeping my tone flat. "It's 0. "How?" "I transferred everything yesterday." A shaky breath came down the line. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything," I answered, voice even. "The system caught large withdrawals from our retirement accounts. By law, big transfers with one signature get flagged for federal review." She paused, probably picturing the mess. "So, how long are we talking?" 5, maybe 7 business days. Longer if anything looks weird." She hung up, and I just sat there, fingers wrapped around my coffee, the red alerts flickering back at me from the laptop. Something big had shifted, not really anger, not even heartbreak, just this crisp sense of things snapping into focus. For 22 years, I'd guarded our future, making careful investments, building up savings, and designing smart financial locks for any emergency. And now, the very person I'd worked to protect had tried to gut it all and bolt. The part that stung most wasn't the cash, it was how cold and calculated she'd been, like she was closing out a business account. I pulled up our investment overview. Even with Emily's raid, most of our retirement funds sat untouched. The 3-bedroom place we bought in Asheville 5 years back, $320,000 then, now worth almost $500,000, was still mine. My personal stock portfolio, all those small-cap bets from sleepless nights, remained safe, as did my individual savings bonds. Every asset was double-fenced by those digital safeguards I'd spent years refining after watching clients get burned. Friday afternoon, I counted 25 unread texts from her. I left them unread. What was the point? I reached out to the divorce attorney I'd quietly brought on retainer last week, James Foster, ex-SEC agent turned family law expert. On Saturday, James didn't mince words. File immediately and keep a paper trail. Her actions only help your case. Come Monday, I signed everything. No spousal support, no reaching for untouched assets. The house stayed mine. Joint account left with just $3,000. Emily could keep that as a parting gift if it meant sealing the deal. Workdays kept coming, steady as ever. I clocked in, ate sandwiches at my desk, and sorted through a mountain of fraud cases. I couldn't help but see the irony. The exact defenses I'd built for strangers were the ones saving my own skin. That weekend, I tackled things head-on. No room for bitterness, just the basics. I packed up the guest room Emily used to hate, donated old marketing books she left behind, boxed up every family photo. It wasn't some dramatic purging, it was just the next step. My old life ended with a text, but the defense net I'd set up was still running, quietly protecting what was left. Then came the courtroom volley. Emily hired Amanda Cruz, a local attorney I'd seen at neighborhood cookouts, always bragging about winning loopholes for her clients. Amanda's motion accused me of manipulating the system. Mr. Bennett abused his professional knowledge to block marital assets. James and I reviewed her claims over coffee at his office. He was all amusement. "They're betting on bad faith," he smirked. "They don't get that these blocks are pure automation, not you flipping switches." The judge set a hearing for 2 weeks out. Sunday night, Emily's calls came in waves, 16 missed before I finally picked up. "Please call the bank, Mike," she begged. "They're holding everything. I'm stuck in Portland." "Portland?" I asked. "I'm visiting friends. But you have to authorize the release." It was all above board. "It doesn't work like that." Silence stretched between us. "This is a mess," she finally muttered. She hung up, leaving me with the hum of the streetlights outside. Sitting in the dark, phone switched off, I watched the glow from the street lamp paint thin lines across the hardwood. Money doesn't care about intentions. It just sticks to the code. And right then, I felt a strange, clean calm. The barriers I built for others had come full circle, keeping me safe, no effort required. Sometimes your best armor is the one you hope you never need. And once in a while, it's the only thing left holding you together. Part 3. Monday's first light cut sharp through the blinds, and my phone vibrated with a string of new messages from Emily. The first read, "I hope you talk to your project director at Jensen & Rowe, your boss, since, apparently, I'm supposed to be in Seattle for business." I swung my legs out of bed, the hardwood cold under my feet, the kind of chill that makes you realize exactly how empty your apartment feels when the world shifts beneath you. By noon, my fraud detection dashboard looked like it was hosting a fireworks show. 3 new credit card attempts flagged at our old address in less than 2 days, all shot down thanks to the ironclad locks I'd set up months back. It struck me as almost poetic. Emily had boxed herself into a corner, scrambling for cash she couldn't reach, blindsided by the very system she'd once trusted. Tuesday morning, my phone lit up with a call from Rachel Lopez, Emily's lawyer. "Mike, we need to have a frank conversation. Your wife needs money to live," she insisted. "There's still $3,000 in the joint checking, surely that's fair?" I could practically picture her pinching the bridge of her nose in manufactured concern. I stayed silent for a beat. The idea that draining $800,000 from our retirement without a word was less severe than asking her to make do with $3,000 seemed almost laughable. Wednesday, Alan Parker, the supervisor Emily claimed she reported to in Seattle, left a hesitant voicemail. "Mike, I'm with HR at Jensen & Rowe. There's no record of Emily at the summit this week. Also, there are some oddities in her expense reports." I felt my gut twist. This wasn't just a hasty getaway, it was a web of lies that had spilled out into the professional world. That afternoon, I got a call from a bank manager. "Mr. Bennett, we've uncovered several questionable transfers between Jensen & Rowe company accounts and private accounts connected to a single IP address," he said, words precise and careful. It was like a cold wave hit me. Emily hadn't just targeted our nest egg, she'd been quietly siphoning company funds for nearly 2 years. All the code I'd written for fraud prevention had finally snared her in her own net. Thursday started with Rachel filing an emergency petition for more access to our joint funds. I spent breakfast at my kitchen table, sorting piles of printed evidence, transaction logs, flagged alerts, digital trails. My analytical instincts took over. The truth lay in numbers, not in excuses. Later that evening, Emily texted, "I wish things hadn't come to this." The message landed like a waterlogged paper boat, soggy and pointless, stripped of meaning by her own choices. I set the phone aside. Words seemed hollow. The data spelled out reality with zero room for negotiation. Friday dawned under gray skies, courthouse corridors buzzing with nerves, and the faint smell of reheated coffee. Emily, usually the most confident person in the room, wouldn't meet my gaze. Her shoulders curled inward as she whispered, "Mike, why?" I kept my voice quiet. Why did I see through it? Why did the protocols work? Why'd you believe you could clean us out? She didn't answer, but she didn't need to. The judge skimmed through a stack of automated logs, every suspicious withdrawal captured and timestamped. His decision was clear. Access to the joint account would stand. Anything more was denied. Emily left, her strategy unraveling under the weight of cold, impartial code. The following Monday, an unfamiliar face appeared at my office door, David Rogers, from Crossline Financial Investigations. He set down a leather briefcase and introduced himself, his tone direct. "Mr. Bennett, we're looking into significant fraud at Jensen & Rowe. Your detection software picked up patterns we missed." Over coffee in my office, David outlined the breadth of the problem. Emily wasn't the only one. A marketing manager, Ben Carter, had conspired to funnel almost $2 million through expense accounts. "We're going to need your help untangling this," David said, a note of gravity in his voice. My hands felt cold. For years, I believed I was the one protecting our family from risk. Now I saw the betrayal ran through boardrooms and spreadsheets, far beyond anything I'd pictured. David stood and fastened his briefcase. "You'll be cleared of corporate involvement, but we'll need a clear paper trail, logs, authorizations, anything proving you were out of the loop." I nodded, memory replaying every trigger, every email alert, every line of code that led here. Stepping into the hall, the spring rain pattered softly on the office windows. I watched droplets race down the glass and thought about how money, in the end, doesn't care about promises or regrets. It only respects the architecture you build. And somehow, that precision felt like its own brand of justice, a system protecting you, even from the heartbreak closest to home. Part 4. I pulled together every document I could think of: tax filings, detailed personal statements, complete audit trails from the tracking software I designed. Every line proving I'd built these safeguards to prevent fraud, never to help it along. That night, Emily texted, "They're talking about pressing federal charges. They think I took millions." I just stared at the message. What was there left to say? Tuesday morning, I got a call from Carol Davis, my realtor. She sounded thrown. Someone had reached out about listing our house, a cash offer for exactly $320,000, the same price we paid half a decade ago. The buyer claimed to represent both me and Emily. Name given? Nick Coleman. Suddenly, it all fell into place. Emily and Nick weren't just draining accounts. Their plan was to buy our home at the old price, then flip it at the current market value, close to $500,000 now. It was a quick escape route, disguised as an innocent real estate move. Wednesday brought Detective Laura Green from the Atlanta Financial Crimes Unit to my door. She laid out the bigger picture. Employees at Jensen and Rowe with suburban properties were being targeted, pushed to sell at losses through fake pressure tactics. The anomaly alerts I'd programmed had exposed transaction patterns that unraveled everything. Victims so far? 12 families. Your logs are the tightest case we've seen. As I imagined those families, folks who played by the book while others gamed the system, I felt the gut punch of how deep this betrayal ran. Thursday, Emily's lawyer, Rachel Lopez, made another try in court, desperate to shake loose extra funds. Her request for an emergency stipend was shot down. The judge ruled that access to the joint account was plenty. My attorney, James Foster, was straightforward. Federal charges are coming. You'll want every shred of documentation. This is beyond family law. Think conspiracy, wire fraud, maybe even RICO. We talked about what that meant. Emily could be staring at decades inside if things went that far. That evening, I scanned and sent every log, email, and screenshot to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Alerts, transaction records, IP addresses, anything that proved what the system caught. It struck me that I hadn't built these defenses to seek revenge, but in exposing what happened, the system uncovered something way bigger than a failed marriage. Real justice, I realized, doesn't come from anger. It comes from patterns and proof, from the systems you build to show the truth. Thursday morning, I was called in before the grand jury. I laid out my testimony with zero emotion, focusing on the nuts and bolts, how my software triggered at 3 a.m. when someone tried to move too much money, how no one, including me, could manually override the blocks. The prosecutor's nod told me my explanation made sense. When they asked if I'd ever looked at Emily's private accounts, I was clear, no. The system monitored only our shared finances. After 2 hours, I stepped down, every log another stone in the case against her. Back at United Core, my supervisor Michelle Lee gave me the latest. Federal investigators needed a comprehensive review of every digital record Emily had touched. We spent the week combing through 3 years of login data, transfers, any possible holes. Nobody could have seen this coming, Michelle said softly. This is why those safeguards exist. The weekend was strangely quiet. Agents picked up Emily and Nick's phones, computers, hard drives. Evidence mounted with each passing hour. I spent Sunday at my home desk, watching new emails roll in. Forfeiture notices, expanded indictments, asset freezes. Late in the afternoon, Rachel called. Emily wants to cooperate. If charges are reduced, she'll give up every name involved. I hesitated. Was it my place to recommend mercy? Tell her, I said. We were done the moment she tried to take our future. Everything else is just numbers. Monday, an official letter arrived. The probe into our shared assets was closed. All retirement funds would be restored. The joint account's last $3,000 would be split straight down the middle. Emily would have to live on $1,500, the same sum she'd once called barely enough for lunch. Tuesday brought a new chapter. The indictments hit. Emily, Nick Coleman, and 5 others from Jensen and Rowe were formally charged for their part in a sprawling Virginia fraud ring. At the bail hearing, the judge called them flight risks, no bail allowed. Emily's next message came from county jail. Guess this is actually happening. I didn't write back. Instead, I watched the rain trace lines across the window, thinking about how the digital walls I'd built to keep out strangers had ended up saving me from a deeper betrayal, the theft of trust itself. Part 5. By Wednesday, the Department of Justice had made their move. Plea offers were on the table. Sentence reductions in exchange for total honesty. Emily faced a brutal choice. Almost 2 decades in a federal cell or turning state's evidence against Ben Carter and the rest of their crew. That night, I boxed up what was left of her life in my house. Binders of old campaigns, marketing pitches, stacks of notes. In the bottom drawer, I found a black leather journal. Its pages mapped out home values, 12 addresses, including mine. The same kind of detailed planning I'd once admired. Only this time, every calculation was aimed at taking, not protecting. On Thursday, the divorce hearings picked back up, complicated now by Emily's orange jumpsuit. Her public defender laid it out. Emily will waive her rights to every asset if you speak to her character in court. I hesitated. After 22 years, I was being asked to sum her up in a sentence. I told the truth, what I'd seen, what I'd learned. Nothing more, nothing less. James Foster filed the motions. The house stayed with me, retirement accounts fully restored, no alimony. There'd be nothing left after sentencing anyway. Friday, a handwritten letter arrived from the jail. Emily's penmanship was flawless. I lost myself chasing money. Ben convinced me it could work. I trusted him more than I trusted you. I wish I hadn't. I dropped the note in my safe. Not forgiveness, not closure. Just another piece of evidence. The federal trial ran for just over 2 weeks. I testified twice. First, they wanted the nuts and bolts. How my detection system fired off at 3:01 a.m. the moment thresholds were crossed. How everything was automated and nothing could be bypassed with a keystroke. Then the prosecution shifted focus. Did you ever suspect Emily's business moves? Never, I replied. When did trust end? When my code flagged her for moving our money without me. She shrank behind the defendant's desk, all color gone from her face, the confident executive replaced by a silent figure in gray. Halfway through, Ben Carter caved and took a plea. 7 years in prison in exchange for names and the blueprints of the scam. The ring spread across several states, with Emily at the center, methodically tracking dollar after dollar to keep books looking clean. Recordings were played in court. Emily's voice, steady, explaining, Mike's algorithms are too tight. He'll never see me adjust the limits. That line turned into her downfall. When the verdict landed, it was a sweep. Guilty on a dozen counts of wire fraud, conspiracy, and embezzlement. The judge set sentencing for 6 weeks out. I left the courthouse with zero drama. No reporters, no words, just me and the long shadow of the entrance behind me. My system had triggered every alarm, produced every log, and handed out justice without an ounce of revenge, just the facts. 2 months passed. Sentences were read. Emily got 18 years, Ben Carter 9. I put the house up and sold it at market. $500,000, even after fees, more than enough to start from scratch. I held on to my job at United Core, but the fraud platform saw big changes. New modules for corporate theft, deeper audit trails. Michelle Lee grinned when she heard. You're saving companies millions, Mike. The divorce finalized with zero fuss. Emily's plea stripped away any dispute. I inked my signature as she started her time. James called to confirm. Restitution granted, retirement restored, and now ironclad. I settled into a small, bright house in Norfolk. No clutter, no spare rooms, no old reminders. I picked up a part-time gig teaching fraud detection at Old Dominion University. Real-world cases, real lessons. Always trust the system, but verify everyone, I told my class. Now and then, a letter from prison appears. Emily's regret grows with every page, but I never answer, never visit, never forgive. My routine is predictable. Coffee at sunrise, quick breakfast, a morning market check, and sometimes a long drive just to clear my head. On those drives, I sometimes pass the new Jensen and Rowe Tower, a reminder that not all fresh starts are about the past. Restitution found its way to 12 other families, proof that tight defenses do more than protect just one life. Betrayal cuts deep, but what you build outlasts it. And sometimes, justice is just math working as intended. I learned to find peace in numbers, not promises. The end.